Alright, we are on Niddah, Daf Aleph Amud Aleph. Into the home stretch here. This is it. Okay. Shami Omer. You want to look inside in the sauna with me?
Yeah.
The other night when neither of you were here, I gave shirts in the sauna. Okay, till Joel showed up. Shami, remember I gave you a shiur?
Yeah.
Shami Omer. Shammai says, "Kol noshin dayan shatzon." All women, that suffices to them the time when they see blood. They're not tamei retroactively. Hilumer Pekida at all, which is one of Shammai's rare kulos, right? Hilumer Pekida Hillel says that metame retroactively from the last time they checked, right? I feel Yom Rabbi, even if Yom Harvey, in the last time they checked themselves was many days ago. So anything they touched in the interim was considered to be tamei. Not like Beis Shammai is to Mekel, not like Beis Hillel is to Machmir. And the last 24 hours diminishes the concept of the last Bedika. When the last 20 for checking, diminishes the last 24 hours, meaning whatever came last is what we go back to, either the last time she checked or 24 hours ago. But whatever period is shorter.
It's a question of chazaka.
What?
It's a question.
Well, she does. This is a unique kind of chazaka, and of course, because here we're saying the chazaka back, right? But yeah.
It's a chazaka of cheskas.
Oh yeah, till the last possible moment, right? Okay, till a moment which was either 24 hours ago or to last checking. Kol isha sheyesh laves says any woman who has a regular cycle, daya shaita, sufficient to be metame her at the time that she's supposed to see her cycle, not any time prior to that. If a woman before she has relations with her husband checks herself, well actually it's not clear if it's before or after. Gemara's going to pick up on that. That checking, even though it's not more superficial, it's not as internal. I mean, it's karez green and nevertheless it's like a checking. It diminishes the amount of time she has to wait. It's considered to be to interrupt the last 24 hours, and she doesn't go back the last 24 hours. Or if there was a bedika preceding it, that's considered to be a more recent bedika, and you go after this one. Okay, Mao dayan shaitan. What does it mean dayan shaitan? What does it mean that their time suffices? She'ena metamim taros l'mafreya. They're not metame taros retroactively, meaning that when we say that, if we pull dayan shaitan, that means that whatever time they saw the blood, then they're betame and they're not tame retroactively. We do not dayan shaitan, then they become tame retroactively. Okay, says the Gemara. It's not like either one of them. Loka Shammai, not like Shammai Shlo Nasan Siyag, for if he didn't give a sufficient boundary to his words. For Loki Lashifli Amidosan, now the killer who went to who exaggerated in his measurements. Ella rather. Whatever, again, like our Mishnah said, the 24 hours cuts into the period between from last time you checked. The last time you checked, Mimaetis cuts into Ayadeh Me'etzleis the last 24 hours. Ketzad Me'etzleis Me'etis Ayadeh Pekida is very simple, straightforward Gemara. Ketzad Me'etzleis Me'etis Pekida, much different than I remember the Bavli Niddah. Very simple, very straightforward.
The first 20 lines.
No, but the first two blot are fine. Ketzad Me'etzleis Me'etis Ayadeh Pekida, I mean, not kind of horror, but Ketzad Me'etzleis Me'etis Ayadeh Pekida, how's the 24 hours cut into the last time she checked, but she only checked herself on Monday. Then she saw blood on Thursday. She only told me till retro 24 hours ago on Wednesday, right? How does it work retroactive? That last time she checked cuts into the 24 hours, but she checked herself in the morning. She saw the blood in the afternoon. Anytime a chocolate, she only has been time retroactively until that morning, not to yesterday. Okay? Do you have a question you want to ask? What?
How
Oh, that's the last sugi, the Gemara. That's the Horios Gemara. That's not this Gemara. This Gemara is about Tuma and Tara. Okay? You'll have to ask about the 5 Kazesim a different time. Okay, that's what we learned when you weren't here. Tam and Tim learned over there. Hasheret Shnitma b'mavui. If you have a sheretz, a dead rodents cause Tuma, which is in a mavui, which is in an alley. So then, Matami Lamafreya, it's Matami retroactively until the last point you know that the dead rodent wasn't there. Okay, so anything which might come to the dead rodent becomes tummy. Says the Gemara, Masisaloka Shammai. It sounds like that price is not like Shammai, because Shammai says we never stretch backwards, right? And this price says we stretch backwards the last time that we knew for sure that the dead rodent wasn't there, right? It sounds like it's not like Shammai. Amar Rabbi Yosef said, no. Over here. In Lacy Kashamai, if it's not going like Shammai, I feel Kihilo Lacy. It's not even going like Hillel. In other words, don't think this is a proof either way, because this is not even going like Hillel. Because Moda Velo Moda Hillel does not Hillel concede b'mavui in an alley shumiskabit that it constantly gets swept out. They have street cleaning. The shetav shokshomim overbo. And rain falls there. Shutar, doesn't he concede that it's tar? In other words, Hillel would not necessarily assume his same svara, which he says by Niddah, by an alley. Because Niddah, being an open and public thoroughfare, obviously things take place there, which is not the case about inside the woman's body, right? So it's not comparable. Okay, so the Gemara really doesn't answer. But obviously this brisa, if it works out, it's got to work out according to both. If it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out according to both, because a mavui alley is inherently different than a woman. Okay, says the Gemara Shammai Omer. Shammai says Hada Isha. Shammai svara is a woman. Aideshi Regila Meiraglaim. It's a woman often urinates. Also saw Kemavi Shumiskabed V'Shetav Shok Shomim Over Bavutar. This is kind of a point of information. You should know Shammai Svara. Shammai Svara is that were there stuff there, it would have come out immediately, because since she constantly goes to the bathroom, a woman goes to the bathroom, so there's no reason to assume that stuff would have been there, stuff would have been there and remained inside and not have come out or not have been apparent. So that's why Shammai Svara. So it's interesting. Gemara says that thing about Moav is not going like Shammai, right? It's not even going like Hillel. But Shammai Svara is similar to what we should have said by Moav. That by Moav you don't go retroactively because it's constantly getting swept out, so too a woman's constantly getting swept out. If there's something there that would have come out. So the Maisa, I don't remember this actually being in the Bavli as far. I don't think this far is in the Bavli. Yeah, no, I don't remember the analogy at all. I think it's unique to the Yerushalmi. So it's more new thing. And also, this is also definitely only in the Yerushalmi, not in the Bavli. I shouldn't say definitely, but to the best of my recollection. Until now, that let's say the B'diko works, Shebatka Mitzaska Naguf. If she checked herself and found herself completely dry, meaning no blood whatsoever. Badka Matzator, what if she checked herself and found Torah blood? Interesting, right? She checked herself and found Torah blood. In other words, the tea was green, not red. Okay? Or it didn't come from the womb. But that's assuming that they had the capacity to distinguish back then. Right, could be. So that interesting thing. So Lamaisa, let's say she checked herself this morning, right? And she found green. Okay, or your case too. And now she became tum in the afternoon. So does that checking this morning, do we only go back to there, or we go back to the last 24 hours? Now, is that what you said, that the checking cuts in the 24 hours? Is that only she found herself dry, meaning with no blood, or is it even if she found herself with some green or pinkish, or not pinkish, not a good example, green or yellowish blood or something like that? It's an interesting question. So Rabbi Ami b'shem Rav and Rabbi Bo b'shem Rav Yehuda said, "Both komitzasa tahar." If she checked herself and found herself to be tahar, this is the flip side. That's good. No, this is the flip side of this. if she wants to go be matire herself to her husband, she also is not considered to be tar ad shetikod mayona. Of course, we don't pass in this way, but he says mamish it has to be a case where she, in order for her to make a siktar, in order to stop being a niddah and become Torah, she's got to be free not just of Tameh blood, but also of Torah blood, which is amazing chumrah. Once she established herself as Tameh, in order to become Torah, she has to not be free of everything, right? Not just free of the red, but free of any other.
Because once she's bleeding tummy blood, so it would make it hard to distinguish between.
Right, and she might still have a cheskas tuma. That's right. That's got mixed in together. So obviously something like that. Chad Rabbi Tuvi, and there was a certain Rabbi Tuvi Omar who said, "B'shem Rabbi Avo," and named Rabbi Avo, Asura lebeisa ad me'es leis. He said an interesting thing that she's also for her husband until she finds herself dry, or until 24 hours have elapsed, whichever comes first. Okay. In other words, if it's 24 hours after her last Tameh blood, even if she's finding Torah blood now, so then she goes also, but she'll become mutter after 24 hours have elapsed. Okay, so it's whatever comes first, a dry bedika or 24 hours. Now, this is again at the tail end of the period. The truth is most is not relevant Bisman Hazeh, because now it was 7 days anyway, so it's only relevant days, and they didn't wait 7 days. Says the Gemara, Rabbi Yaakov Racha said, L'mais, we don't pass this way anyway. Rabbi Yaakov said, Katzligis Locha, for when I came up to Eretz Yisrael, Shamisa Mikol Rabban, heard from all the rabbis, Muter Sebeis Miyad. She's allowed to go home and have relations with her husband immediately after she ceases to see blood which is Tameh. Okay.
The Gemara is skipping over the initial part of the beginning, the
right. We're just talking about here. Yeah, this is symmetry with our Mishnah, right? And our Mishnah is talking about preceding the viewing, so too this Gemara is talking about subsequent to the viewing. Okay? They want to say, Mandamar Muteris Lebeisa. He who says that she's Muter Beisa Miyat. It says Mipkida, but oh no, sorry. I made it wrong. I read my correction wrong. She said this. They wanted to say Mandamar Muteres Lebeisa, and here the word Miyad should appear. It's Kipkida. It's like a Pekida. Lemait me'es leis. In other words, if she's muteris to go to her house, to home immediately, right? We just learned. So therefore, I'm super good what I'm saying here. 1 second. I made a mistake. Obviously, the way I'm learning, it's no good. Let's go back a few lines, because it's not working out the way I thought it was. So let's go back to Rabbi Yami Shem Rabbi Yasi. Let's say Shem Rabbi Ba. The top line. But Rabbi Yami Shem Rabbi Ba said, Shem Rabbi name Rabbi Yehuda. If she checked herself and found herself to be tahar, Asula Besa, she's also to her house. This is not after. I was wrong, and I didn't learn. So I didn't learn that way when I prepared either. Just fell into my head right now. The way it should be is that she's also to her house. Actually, it should be Tinogay Mayana Yiskan, whatever it is. Lamaisa, it means that there's also a big chumrah. It's even a bigger chumrah than I portrayed it before. Even if she didn't have dam tameh ever this cycle, but she checked herself and found all sorts of tinges which are not dam tameh, lamaisa she's not allowed to have relations with her husband. Not allowed to have relations with her husband unless she's totally clear of any image whatsoever. Okay, whether she, at the beginning of the cycle, right? Chad Rabbi Tuvi Amar Sheva Sula Beisad Me'esla.
Even if it's not the time when she's expecting her period, because I remember in the Bible he said that if she's beginning, and in other words, it's around the time, it's 26, 27.
You're probably right. It's probably at the time she's expecting a period, even though the Yerushalmi doesn't make that clear. Because otherwise, you're right. It's very stringent.
It's in the middle of the cycle.
Yeah, middle of the cycle. All right, so let's assume that. That's the time when she expects it. From that time, she's also for the next 24 hours. From the time she found a different type of blood, she's also for the next 24 hours. But after that, she's mutter. Rabbi Yaakov said, when I came to Shamisi Mikor Rabbanan, Mutez basically I know even if when she finds a color other than the tummy color or blood other than tummy blood, she's allowed to go home immediately. Hamboy want to say and have relations. Hamboy want to say Manamar Muteris Lebesa. He said she's permitted to go home immediately. It's Kidahu. That this checking, which she just checked and found the non-tummy blood, is a checking the Mace Lace. In other words, if within 24 hours she does find from now that she's tummy, like you said, because it's around the time she's expected to come tummy, so then this cuts into the 24 hours. The fact that she checked herself and found this greenish tinge or whatever she found, or even other blood which is not tummy, so that cuts into the 24 hours, right? Says Marmanda, the Gemara is proposing he who says that at this point she's forbidden to go to have relations with her husband because we already suspect something's in the offing. So may say so. Therefore, this bedika is not a cutoff point because, on the contrary, it generates in us suspicions, right? So it's the right point. So it doesn't cut into the 24 hours. So whenever she sees true Tamei blood, it doesn't just jump back to this check, it jumps back to the 24 hours even preceding this. Says more now, no, not true. Says my people command Domar, even according to Amara Sula Besa, he says there's a warning flag, and she can't have relations. Nevertheless, it cuts into the 24 hours. If that's the case, Flomi Asula Besa, why she taka also to go home? Why could she have relations? If you're saying that it does cut in the 24 hours, it means it's considered to be a bedika tohayra, so why is she forbidden? Says more about Batish reason, which again is not in the Bavli. Because are they still in there? By the way, once we interrupted, the scene will be here. I told you that last night already, right? The scene will be Sunday here, 6:45 p.m. Okay, till Mincha, it's about 8:15. And I asked Rabbi Sender to be the keynote speaker. So I don't know if anybody's going to come in or not, but I asked him to be the keynote speaker. So you guys will all speak, and he'll speak, and I think that'll be enough. So in any event, so the Gemara says, so if that's the case, if the blood which is a different image looks the blood which is different from which is tahor doesn't preclude her for our relations with her husband. I'm sorry. If the blood which is tahor doesn't I lost my train of thought. If the blood which is tahor cuts into the 24 hours, and it's considered to be a valid bedika of tahara, that any tumor which extends back from the point that she sees blood cannot go behind that bedika. So that's why she also to her husband from that time on. So it says more very fundamental answer, which is not in the Bavli. Since she's accustomed to seeing this Torah blood, she's going to become accustomed to see Tamei blood, which is an interesting concept. In other words, she's on the path, right? And therefore she's on the pathway to see the blood, so therefore we're machmir on her. It seems like it's a gzeira d'Rabbanan. It doesn't just seem, it's a gzeira d'Rabbanan. The rabbi said, she's already seeing, as Reb David pointed out before, she's on the verge of seeing her period, right? And she made a bdika and she saw, blood which is a tar, but obviously it's at the time when she's going to see blood which is tummy. So therefore, she's ala derech. So therefore, machmir, best not to go further. It's interesting. Tziyun Yerushalmi here towards the bottom. The Tziyun Yerushalmi says that he says from this it indicates that the tamei bloods and the tar bloods all come from the same source, right? In other words, that's why obviously there's some continuum because they came from two different sources, right? And then you can't say, well, she's on the road to see Damim Tamein. Now you could say, well, Gzeir Rabbanan, who cares, right? Even if one comes from point A and the other comes from point B, it doesn't make a difference, right? But Lamaisa, he wants to taina that from this we see that it comes from the same place.
So theoretically, it's not from the same place. This one is from the uterus.
Yeah, but we see according to what we said before, Chazal were able to distinguish different types of blood. So it's possible this is it's uterine blood, which is tar. We don't distinguish anymore. Okay, so it could be that that's the same thing. Okay, it's not clear. Anyway, but that's what he wants to come to the time. Anyway, Badkum Mitzvahs a Suffolk. What if she checked this out, but she found herself to be a Suffolk? She doesn't know. Now, the question is, the Amud Yerushalmi compels the idea that this is about a case where it's a suffix of where you can't be mavarid, because the suffix where you can be mavarid, so go to the rabbi and ask him, and maybe you have to be machmir, etc., etc. It says this is about a case where she lost her b'dika cloth. Okay, it's got to be, as you'll see momentarily, it must be a case where it's a suffix where you cannot be mavarid because she lost the cloth. Okay, so in that case, suffix. It definitely is not considered b'dika to cut into the retroactive 24 hours, right? Because we don't know what came out. So does she have to regard herself as being tamei misafek, right? At this point in time. So remember, it's a true safek because you can't find the b'dika cloth, okay? So nishminim adults learn out from here. Tumtum v'andregenus. Now I don't know how tumtum got into this. It's probably a typo, but because I don't think a tumtum has the capacity to become a niddah, but an andregenus has the capacity to become a niddah, right? Andregenus shiro, right? And andregenus is saw blood. We don't know he's a niddah, right? Because we don't know if he's a man or woman, right? So that's one suffix, right?
Well, if it's a typo, then it's a double typo. Shirahu is plural.
Oh, shiro. Oh, you're right. Okay, good point. Okay, no, it's not. All right. So then, I guess it's some sort of secretion down there somehow. So dying shaiti, you never time them retroactively. Even according to Basil, according to Rabbi, not retroactively. Match, what do you want to conclude from your Asamar? Rabbi yesterday said very cute. It says tumtum adregnus safek. Tumtum adregnus is a safek, right? They're a safek if they have need or not. Umeis leis, and going back 24 hours itself because of a safek. And here it is. Vein safek l'svav svek safek. There's no such thing as a safek on a safek, a svek sveka. So it really sounds like Reb Shimon Shkop's spar and svek sveka. It says svek sveka is based on that the Torah said to be machmir a safek. There's no such thing as a safek on a safek. So as opposed to the Rashba says that svek sveka is because of a rov. The language just is, there's no suffix on top of a suffix. Whatever chumash you have in one suffix, you don't have in the second suffix. All right, in any event, because, so to here, we also suffix, where she lost the b'dika cloth, that's one suffix, right? And then, me'es le'es suffix. Going back, next year, is also suffix on the suffix, vein suffix, l'suffix, there's no suffix on top of another suffix. Okay? That which she said, she's metame the last 24 hours retroactively from the time she sights her blood. It's only vis-a-vis kachim, avalo taros, not vis-a-vis taros. Kachim is a higher madrega than taro. Taros mean, of course, truma and stuff like that. Okay? It says, we learn Maisa Beriva Achas Eitlu. So Maisa, a certain young girl in Eitlu. She Sika La Sholosh Onas. For three onas, meaning 3 months, she didn't see any blood. So they thought she was pregnant or something like that. And then she saw blood after 3 months elapsed. And the mice came for Chachamim. And they said, oh, it's enough. The time she becomes pregnant, we're not going to go 24 hours back. So because she thought she had been free and clear of blood, and she had a chazaka being free and clear of blood, so therefore we don't go back 24 hours. So it says more, I understand if you're going to say the whole business of going 24 hours back is only visiting kachim, kachim by Aitalu. In Aitalu is it kachim? There's no kachim in Aitalu. It's only in Yerushalmi maybe, but not in Aitalu. I don't know where Aitalu is, but Elib Shnasul Taras HaKodesh. Maybe you'll say Tzad B'chulin Shnasul Taras HaKodesh. Below Chulin name, aren't they like Chulin? Meaning, now what does it mean like Chulin? Of course, all of the Shas say Chulin Shnasul Taras HaKodesh are not like Chulin, right? They're like Taras HaKodesh. They're made to be like the Yekudayis over there. There's a Kodesh. So Agil Ephraim means that you wouldn't do Me'ez Leis on them. Even though you could duck yourself with Kedusha vis-a-vis them, but the Me'ez Leis you wouldn't do on them. It's no worse than the Speika we had before. But it's in a Speika you're not Mach Me'ez Leis. So on Chulin Shnasul Taras HaKodesh, you want to be Machmir, you're not going to be Machmir the retroactively. Okay? So it says, no, Solomon, you getting bored? Okay, so take a sitter and learn. You don't have to come to shiur tomorrow night. I know it's more boring than Oreos. Oh well, sorry. What? So go into the base manager, get a sitter. Okay, it says more.
I was impressed with his questions, by the way.
What?
I was very impressed with your questions.
Oh, the questions he asked on the tape? Oh, yeah, okay. So it says the Gemara, Tani, Meis Leis Shamru, that 24 hours which they said, so it says more, sorry, so the answer is, Tipatu Shnasul Taras Mechatos. Now, I don't know why in Aitalu they're doing things like Chumras Taras Paraduma, but we know Paraduma were super machmi, irrational Chumras, right? So also we're machmi this irrational Chumra Meitz Leitz Mafreya, right? Shemechatas Chamurim Mekodesh, they're more machmi Mechatas with Kodesh. Tani. We also learned Meitz Leitz Shamru, that which you said with time Meitz Leitz 24 hours retroactively, consistently with the sheet of that it's a Chumra Misafe, sure they said Toilin Avalo Sarfin. Truma, which became contact with this needle within the past 24 hours, so then we toilet, meaning we wait till it rots, we don't burn it immediately. Okay? Says the Moravava, Rabbi Zira Chadeba. Rabbi Zira was happy about this because he found an explicit brisa to this effect. The brisa says, somebody, a woman who sees a kesem, a stain, is metame retroactively. Okay? Umay metame, she metame oichlin, food, mashkin, beverages, and mishkava stuff she lied on, mashava stuff she sat on, and anytime you have a kesem, it ruins your count. Now, nowadays, there's no count to ruin because they always said Shiv Nakim. But in the old days, when you were Niddah and you didn't say Shiv Nakim, so and you were Zava, you did say Shiv Nakim, so then if you saw a kesem, you don't know which day it came from because it's a stain on your garment. You know when it got there. So therefore, it ruins your count of knowing whether you're a Niddah or a Zava. Okay? Because there's 7 days of Niddah, 11 days of Zava, you don't know how to deal with it. Okay? Says the well, it's metame, anybody who had relations with her within the past 24 hours retroactively, meaning he's telling me like she is for 7 days. You can't find a sitter? Okay, so come sit down next to me. Come on. Top of Bezamrav. Also, a woman who actually sees blood, not just a stain. It's metame retroactively. My metame was she metame eichlin furu mashkin beverages v'mishkava stuff she lies on v'mashava stuff she sits on but doesn't ruin her count because she knows when she sees the blood when she sees it, right? She's not metame somebody who had relations with her retroactively. Okay, so otherwise because of kesem. Obviously, we're more mach, even though kesem is less chomer than actual blood, because the stain always comes somewhere else, right? But nevertheless, it's metame. Blood is not metame the bowel retroactively, whereas the kesem is, because the kesem obviously we feel she's a little bit poshea. She should have checked her garments before she had relations in the last 24 hours. Okay, so says the word metame is mafreya. Kiva says also Kiva said, I'm sorry, it's Machlokes. Aim time is spelling Mafreya. Kiva remember time is spelling Mafreya. Zev is it's only regardless in both cases. Whatever too much she came into contact with, whether within the 24 hours before cast or the 24 hours before actual flow. Toiling avalo sorfin. We will let the tumor rot, but we don't burn it. Tamaraman, we Amrin over there. We said Meisle Shomru Mishkava Kamago. The last 24 hours, whatever she lay upon, whatever she touched, and therefore it obviously becomes tummy. Ma Kiboel Niddah says more. What's the status for giving her in the 24 hours prior to having seen the blood? Is she like a boil Niddah? Somebody has a relations with a Niddah? It's a fascinating analogy. It's kind of weird because she's a woman, right? When we're giving an analogy to a man who had relations with a Niddah, but obviously means that we're making her during the 24 hours before she saw her period, right? Like somebody who had relations with a Niddah, right? So therefore, her status is the same status vis-a-vis herself, her schizophrenic self, right? She, within the last 24 hours, is as if she had relations with a Niddah. She's like a man who has relations with a Niddah. Because that's the affinity between the 24 hours before her period and her period itself. So it says, okay, so there's a creative analogy.
And she's metame.
Right. So it says, well, if that's the case, Veina metame behesed veina metame klicheres so trades the gears to make that one thing. Isn't she metame if she moves klicheres? Because a boil Niddah is metame if he moves the klicheres, right? If he moves it, even if it doesn't touch the inside, it's metame. Says, "Mar, you're right." Ashkech Tani did hakafan brayso. Metame klicheres has said, lo and behold, she's metame retroactively during those 24 hours earthenware jug if she moves it. Meis le shamru, that meis that they said magod birshus harabim. In other words, that 24 hours you touch something birshus harabim out. That was a very interesting concept because normally birshus harabim we say speko is tar, right? What kind of a suffix is this? This last 24 hours is a bona fide suffix. So in birshus harabim it should be a speko, right? Or is it it's not a real bona fide suffix, and therefore it's not a speko, and therefore Rishus Rabbi it may well still be tummy. Okay, that's our question. So says the Gemara, Nishmini Niddah, that's not from here. Muberes u'meinekes, a woman who's pregnant, or a woman who's nursing. Here it says Torah Balei, and Shratir Sol says Balei and Tor. The men who have relations with them are Tohar, meaning within the 24 hours of when they saw blood, because we say the blood was not there within the past 24 hours because the assumption was that they have a chazaka that there was no blood inside of them because they were either pregnant or nursing. So to a woman who has a regular cycle, and all other women, it should be Torah mishum biha. Anybody's relations to them, but then within the 24 hours before they see their period, is considered to be still tar, right? However, umetamos, they are sharkol nashim. Sorry, sharkol nashim. I read it right, but let me read it again because I got mixed up. Sharkol nashim tahorim mishum biyo metamos mishum maga. This is in the Bible as well. In other words, that which you're matami the 24 hours back from the time she sees blood is only vis-a-vis to matar, not vis-a-vis her husband. Okay, it's not vis-a-vis her husband. Okay, but in a woman who has a veses. Versa Menika, all the other women are not matami b'mago even mafreya. But a woman who doesn't have a veses, she's matami within the past 24 hours, but she's not matami her husband. Okay? Yes. A woman who does not have a veses is matami mago the past 24 hours, not her husband. A woman who does have a veses, she's not even matami mago during the past 24 hours.
Is she not
because she has a vessel, she has a regular cycle. We don't assume she missed it. We assume it's now. Okay? Said
a pregnant woman or someone that's nursing. Is she matame for maga?
No, it's kind of inaccurate. But she's also not matame maga, right? But she's a musaleka's dummy, right? Okay. Says Mara. Now this teaches us that it's an irony here as well, which is if she has relations with her husband, she's not matame him. But if she touches her husband, she's matame him. because the tumor having relations with him makes him like a niddah himself. It's on the next 7 days. The tumor having common contact with the niddah just makes him rishon l'tumah. So rishon l'tumah becomes, he doesn't become the ava tumah like she is. Okay, that's the irony about it. Right.
Walk out?
It's yes, go ahead.
I was trying to avoid going in the alley.
No, it works. I don't know, it might have to do the other way. It might be counterintuitive.
All right, I'll go forward.
Says the Hadamra is teaching us Vaday Magor B'Rishus Rabbi Tomei. It's interesting. I'm not sure exactly the derivation. I don't fully grasp this. But Lamaisa, if she's Matami retroactively Magor, despite the fact she's not Matami the boil, so it means that we gave her a status retroactively that she's Tomei. Whereas the antecedent might have been a suffix, but once you gave her the status, the Gzeira D'Rabbanan of being Matami Magor within the past 24 hours, that's enough that even if she finds a Rishus Rabim, right, we assume that she's definitely Tomei. It's a fascinating thing. In other words, it's not if she has a suffix if she touched on the Rishus Rabim. The question, which I probably didn't phrase. Yeah, this is a Vada aspect. That's going to come up again a couple of times. But I didn't make myself clear, and probably because I didn't really clarify for myself. But what it means like this, the Hami the Gemara was that if this woman touches something Rishus Rabim during the past 24 hours, let's say it's tar, because Meitz Leis is based on the suffix. The Kamashman is not that way. That the Meitz Leis, even though it's based on the suffix, they gave it the status of Vadai. So when she walks through Rishus Rabim touching things, she makes that stuff definitely Tamei. Even though the whole premise is based on the suffix, but now it became a Takana of the Rabbanan, even which is Rishus Rabim. It's a mind-boggling idea, the truth is, because that means any woman who's in Niddah walks through Rishus Rabim, is mancha based on Mikdash Hayakayim, that whole Rishus Rabim, but that you have to assume is basically Tamei, right? Because women are walking through it touching stuff, right? So, couldn't even buy a vegetable in the market because maybe the woman would touch it and she may become Tamei. It's a mind-boggling thing. Okay. Says more, that's probably why we sell fruit unwashed. Says more further. Rabbi Damra Vade Magor B'Rishus Rabim Tomei. Whenever she touches on Rishus Rabim, it's definitely Tomei, no matter what. Okay. Rabbi has the following question. Botka Chaluka B'Shachris. She checked her garment in the morning. With sauce and there were no stains there. Mincha Motzes Love Kes in the afternoon, she found a stain there. So Pshita Chaluka Ein Tomei El Achaz B'Dika. It's obvious that her garment is only Tomei from the last time she checked. Gufa Ma'ushetei Tomei Meis Leis. What about her body? She didn't check herself within the past 24 hours. She only checked her garment, right? So what about herself, right? So says the Gemara, Gufa Ma'ushetei Meis Leis. Says Marklumat Metami Gufa Machmos Chaluka. I understand. There's a paradox here. Why are you going to be talking about her body? Is it not only because of her Chaluka? Chaluka Ein Tomei El Achaz B'Dika. Her garment's only tummy until the time she last checked. The gufa tummy says you want a body to be tummy retroactively. How can you possibly do this, right? So therefore we don't say it. Now, Lamaisa, the Or Sameach has a whole discussion of this about Kesem because he says is a very long discussion about the Yerushalmi Niddah because he says Kesem itself is only a suffix, and you say it's a suffix. Why is Kesem any different than Tutum and Adreganus, right? Because all stains could have come from somewhere else. She was walking through a butcher store or something like that, yeah? And nevertheless, her matami kesem, but it's a suffix. So any kesem should be a suffix like a tumtum adragonus, and it should be a speka by definition. So obviously the Yerushalmi holds a kesem, even though it's based on the suffix, they gave it the status of being a vadai. Okay? Says the more further. Hamishamesh is marich on it a great deal, not for us. Hamishamesh is baited. A woman who has relations, we said it's our mission, a woman who has relations based on B'dika clause. Okay, that's like the last check, even though it's not a thorough check, it's a real check. Hechavida, what's the case? But Gatzma B'Shachar, she checked herself in the morning. B'Shim Shabeid B'Chatzos, and then she had relations with checking at midday. The Rosh Mincha, she saw blood in the afternoon. Ain't Tamei Shatz B'Dad, she only told retroactively until the time she had relations. Levi Omar Beit Shalachar Tashmish Matzisa. Levi said it only works if she checked herself after relations. That's when the Brisa says it cuts off the extension back. But when she checks herself before Tashmish, it's pro forma. Hamumi Lebesa, she's passionate about getting home. Therefore she's confused, and therefore she's not going to do it properly. She doesn't check properly. So it's more punkt fakir. Rabbi Amishim Rabbi Zira said, it only works if it's the 8 before Tashmish, because that's more reliable. But the way 8 she uses, the b'dikla she uses after Tashmish, it's already dark or discolored. Machma shichva zera. What it means, and what I should have said is that it weakens the redness, because the whiteness of it dilutes it. So that's what it means. So Lamaisa, both of them cast aspersions on either part of the b'dika before and after Tashmish. So obviously that's why they're qualitatively not as good as any other b'dika. But Lamaisa, we say they work in order to diminish the meis leis.
One is psychological and the other is physiological.
Right, that's true. Okay, what about the time when we say she doesn't go back? What's the case? How does that work? She was sitting in bed, involved in taros. Pirsha, she got out of bed. She saw blood. She's tamei v'kula taros. Everything else which was in bed with her store. In the cases where daya shaita. Okay, where according to Sham in all cases, or according to Rabbana in the following cases. Says the Gemara, retroactively 24 hours. Ain't a money mashas for sure, for counting for neither purpose. She counts the time she saw. Says for women, it's sufficient for them the time they become tamei. And this is the case I said it was following right. In other words, there's no meis leis. Bisula, a woman who's a virgin. Now here, virgin doesn't mean a real virgin. Because obviously a woman who's a basula can be seeing blood for many years, right? It means a woman who never saw blood before. She's a basula's domim. They're not a basula's biyah, right? Baris, a woman who's pregnant, a manika, a woman who's nurses, Kana, and a woman who's underwent menopause. So ever since there's no blood there, so there's no meis leis retroactively. Rabbi Shur said, Lo Shamati el Basula, I only heard about the Basula bit, okay, not about the 3 other cases. But nevertheless, I can see the point. Rabbi Shur said, Lo Shamati el Basula, so that's the header. The last line of the Mishnah we just learned. Einer means, this is why we possibly bless her. Einer means, because they don't say Mishalora Salafana Yobavioi. They don't say somebody who didn't see the moon should come and testify about the new moon. Rather, Elohim, we say Mishalora Salafana Yobavioi. He who saw the moon should come and testify, right? Atalo Shamatos, or Rabbi Lezer said to Rabbi Yeshua, you didn't hear, Ani Shamati. I heard, so you have to accept what I have to say. Kayam Mishar Rabbi Lezer Kayam. Nevertheless, a fascinating thing, as long as Rabbi Lezer was alive, like Rabbi Yeshua. I guess Rabbi Yeshua doesn't say this here actually. And I looked today in the Sheilas David was quoting. He doesn't make this point either, but I think the point is because since Rabbi Yeshua put Rabbi Lezer in Chayrim, so as long as Rabbi Lezer was alive, he didn't want to pass him like him. Yeah, that's the famous case on Yerushalmi Niddah. In any event, so in any event, so that's the case. While Rabbi Koyam Misher Eliezer Kamay Alocha Rabbi Yeshua Mishemeis Rabbi Eliezer, once Eliezer was died, then Hini Rabbi Yeshua Rabbi Eliezer, and Rabbi Yeshua brought back the Alocha to go like Rabbi Eliezer. Ma'akim says what are we talking about? Im Shishama Rabbi Eliezer Mipi Echad. If Rabbi Eliezer held the Alocha from one Rabbi, Rabbi Yeshua B'Shnayim Rabbi Yeshua heard his Alocha from 2 Rabbeim. Bein b'chaim bein lachamisa, they like Rabbi Yeshua. Allah should always be like Rabbi Yeshua, because he heard from more sources. V'shisham Rabbi Yeshua b'yechad, if Rabbi Yeshua heard from one source. Rabbi Lezer Yishnayim, Rabbi Lezer heard from 2 sources. Bein b'chaim bein lachamisa, both during his lifetime after that, they also Rabbi Lezer, Allah should follow Rabbi Lezer. Says Markado the time, it was like this that we learned. Echad oim shamati b'vishnayim. One says I heard from 2 people. Ushnayim Rishayim b'yechad, 2 people said I heard from one person, right? So it's interesting, this halach, it's not, this I don't remember the Bavli either, I don't think it's in the Bavli. So fascinating thing. Yofet kocha echot sheshama Mipishnayim, if you listen to the one guy heard from two, Mikoach Hashnayim Shom Mipi Echad, over the two guys heard from one. It's logical, but I just never saw it spin before. Ache Rabin Lahatos goes on the original generation, not on today's generation, right? So 50 people heard the Chazon Ish said also, right? And one person heard that Rav Moshe Feinstein and Rav Shlomo Zalman said Mutter, so then, who actually is the Rabbim, that one person over the other 15. Isn't that an interesting thing? That's what it says here, okay? So it says, so this is all a digression, because we have no clue how it worked in the times of Rabbi Eliezer and Rabbi Yeshua. There's no idea here. So, so what are we talking about? B'shovin. Must be talking about where they heard equally. In other words, each guy heard from one person, right? Rabbi Eliezer from one and Rabbi Yeshua from one. Zeh shomei pi echad, zeh shomei pi echad, each or zeh shomei pi shnayim, zeh shomei pi shnayim. It was all even Steven. However, b'chayav lo daito, pshat is from while I was alive. Rabbi Eliezer did not, Rabbi Yeshua did not concede to Rabbi Eliezer opinion because he didn't accept his logic. After his death, he accepted his logic. Again, I think it has something to do with the Cherem, but I don't know. What logic did he see to agree after his death to Rabbi Eliezer? Because the time that we learn Arba Noshim Shom Chachamim Dayan Shaiton, those 4 women of Chachamim said it suffices to them their time. Kisman Tomei L'Mafreya. Nevertheless, if they see a kesem, they see a stain, it's tummy retroactively. Except for a girl who's not yet old enough to see blood, because she has no kesem until she establishes a pattern of seeing blood. The 4 women, the say that our time suffice. Keep one, they argue, they say in here, the Gillian Ephraim changed gears, so changed the gears, the Gillian Ephraim changes one way in the bottom chart, the Sol changes another, Gillian chart, should say, instead of the next word, Tamil Mafrei Avol, it should say, Kiri'il Son. Their kesem is like they're citing. Marios and Dayan Shaiton, just like when they cite, it's sufficient to start from then, no 24 hours retroactive. Af Kisman, so to their kesem, Dayan Shaiton. So to their kesem is sufficient to the evil thereof. V'chein, and instead of avot should be v'chein, and so to tinoikas should give mildly rose. A tinoikas whose time has come to see, she's old enough. She's over what age? Remember what age Niddah starts? 3. 3. Okay, the chumrah. 3. Okay, so Maria Sadaya Shaita, just like Riyasa Maria Sadaya Shaita, just like Riyasa, to sufficient to time the day the evil thereof. Av Kismataya Shaita. So to her kesem is Daya Shaita. Now, says the Gemara, why is her tamei? Why is she tamei at least from here on in? Obviously because Amar Rabbi Yanim Nechasir for Motzui, because her sap is already present, right? Once her sap is present, she's matame, but only from here on in, not retroactively. Elush ain't sir for Motzui. But those, and certainly if this, it should be mimes. I skipped the line. That's what my problem was. Sorry. Mimes shasir for matzli. Well, this girl who can already see because she's over 3, nevertheless, not metame retroactively. Atar medai shai to say it's sufficient for the time when she sees, not retroactively. Elish ain't sir for matzli. And mulberes and menekas and skena, they don't got blood. They're not in that stage. So Lokoshkein is not a Kavachomer that it doesn't work retroactively. And Mikan, from this Kavachomer Shura Daito, Rabbi Yeshua acceded to Rabbi Eliezer. Okay? Ez Absula, what's Absula vis-a-vis our Sugya? Ko Shalo Ruas Tam Koyimeh, any woman who never saw blood her entire life. Aval Pidin Sula, even though she's married now, as long as she hasn't seen blood, Dayo Shaita, we don't go retroactively. Muberes, who's considered to be pregnant, Mishum Yodei Bar, once it's known she's pregnant. Menekes, who's a woman who's nursing, Mishatigmal Esbeno, well, until what it changed? Mishatigmal Esbeno, until such time as she weans her child. allowed to, or mace. What if she gave her child already to a nursemaid, or weaned it, or it died? The child died. The mayor says she's retroactive at that point. Until the first time she sees, even after the antecedents have gone away, she's only matami that time and not retroactively. Says what's a psula vis-a-vis our issue? Kani Masisa is the way to learn our price. Mishnah, even if she's a woman who never saw damnida her entire life, even though she's married, psula domi mama, because it's talking about a psula vis-a-vis seeing blood. Avalo psula psulim, we're not talking about a psula vis-a-vis or actual psulim. That's not the issue of our Masechta at all. I mean, at least not of our sugya, right? Says the Gemara, sometimes sometimes a woman is psula vis-a-vis blood, she's not a psula vis-a-vis virginity. She's not a psula vis-a-vis virginity, she's not a psula vis-a-vis blood. Psula dami, what's the case where she's psula vis-a-vis blood? Now the lines here are transposed. It should be b'sheni seis v'chachachos. She's got married already, had relations already, but she hadn't seen blood in neither yet. What's a psula psulim? What's a psula vis-a-vis virginity? It should be b'sharos. She already saw v'chachachos seis and then she got married. She's a psula vis-a-vis virginity, but she's not a psula vis-a-vis blood. Okay. Says the Malet Tani, we learned. Shosh psula is saying there are three things that are called psula. Psula Satan, psula of a human being, psula Shikma, the psula of a sycamore tree, and psula Sa'aretz, and psula of land. Virgin land, I think we talk the same English too. Psula Satan is kosher, even a woman never had relations. Psula Shikma, psula of sycamore, kosher, never the sycamore has ever been cut down yet. Psula Sa'aretz, the psula of land, kosher, lo nechrats. The tzadi and shin are interchangeable, anything which has not yet been plowed. That's virgin land. Shlo nechrats by miyameh. Anything which has no furrow in it whatsoever. Now, Mashbiach seems to hold that that's redundant. So he learns the second time it says cheretz is kosher ein ba cheres, and it means that it doesn't have any shortcoming, any patch of land which is not arable or not fertile, because if it hasn't yet ever been planted, cultivated, so then the land is more blessed than if it's already been planted. So it's kosher ein ba cheres. There's no dry spots yet. I don't know. That's what he says. He's reporting what he says. Says I feel Nisays, getting back to our issue. I feel Nisays, even if she got married, I feel Ibra, even if she's pregnant, I feel Menika, even if she's nursing, I feel Shofas Ko Shiva Lazar go Arban Akeva, Basan Akeva, even if she's gushing blood for 7 days for a male, 14 days for a female, nevertheless, subsequently Daya Shaita. When we look back to get the Niddah blood, since she never saw she was a psula's damim beforehand, so we don't say her Niddah blood is mitami retroactively the first time around, even after she gives birth. Now the next Gemara, I was not satisfied with anybody's pshat, so therefore I'm making up my own. I didn't like the Pnei Moshe, the Gilin Ephraim, and the Ridbaz, and that's all I could see on it. So I'm making up my own pshat. It says Kisma Biyodo. I don't understand. Says the Gemara. He said that she had magic in her hands. But shows through Zachar Shiva that when she look, she's going to see dam after she gives birth. The blood she sees first. The blood she sees for the first 7 days for a boy, and the first 14 days for a girl is dam tame, right? So how can you say daya shaita after that? Right? She loses her chazaka not to see blood of tumah after birth, because after birth she sees blood of tumah. Right? So how do we say daya shaita afterwards? She just became tummy again. How do you say daya shaita? So it says more, especially to say because she's still psula damim. How can you possibly say that? It says does she have magic in her hands? So she turns it off. Was that after 7 days, after 14 days, she no longer has dam tameh? She reverts to psula as damim, or reverts to a meinekes? How does that work? So it says more, you know what, interesting thing, she has the takasi blood of Tara. How long does she have blood of Tara by male? After the blood of Tumah? 33, right. And for a female, it's 66. So she has to stop seeing that blood. If she saw Dam Tor and then stopped, so I mean, that's when Daya Shaita. In other words, if she continuously saw blood from Dam Tome into Dam Tor and then Dam afterwards, then you're right, you don't say Daya Shaita. It's only if she saw blood Tome, saw blood Tor afterwards, and then stopped, then we say Daya Shaita from here on in. Okay? So says Mara, because that's how what you learned. You seek a dam tar below Ross, you stop seeing the blood of Tara of the 33 of the 66 and didn't see it. And then she saw blood son thereafter. But my said, that case came from Daya Shaita. They said about that case Daya Shaita. Says the Gemara, I'll die to the Rab. Now, says according to Rab, Maru said, Mayan Echadu, it's one flow. The Dam Tami and Dam Torah comes in the same flow. So Elishatari Tiago, it's just that the Torah said that it is Torah for 33 or 66 days. Nicha. I understand. Her flow from that source stopped. Right? She must stop it. I shouldn't say it stopped. She must stop it in order to then say Daya Shaita afterwards. It's got to stop. And then say Daya Shaita afterwards at some point. Okay? And and also Rabbi Yaakov also says one source. Elishu Mishtane, but the blood changes. It's still a Chiddush, but it still comes from the same source. You also understand why it's got to stop, and only afterwards we say Daya Shaita. But Adaita the Levi, because the Levi to Omer Shtei Mayonasein says there are two springs within a woman. One of them is the Dam Tami, the other is the Dam Tor. So he says, one is Dam Leida, and one is Dam Niddah. Sorry, switch that. One is Dam Leida, and one is Dam Niddah, right? It says the two separate ones for Dam Leida and Dam Niddah. So according to him, Adai Levi Domer Shtei Mayana said, Afilu Ifsiko Dam Toar Teitaya Shaita. Even if she didn't stop seeing the blood of Tara later on, we should say Daya Shaita. Why? Because the faucet of Niddah never got turned on again. In other words, it's not the same faucet, and therefore you'd have to stop it in order to break the pattern of seeing and say Daya Shaita. It's a different faucet which was running the whole time, right? So why do you have to say, why she have to stop seeing blood before we say Daya Shaita later when she starts up again? Says Maram Marimon, said, time of Levi, the legislates that what we said before. We're afraid of the prelude problem. It sounds against the Rabbanan, not the right one. But we don't want her to be so free with assuming that blood is tar. So therefore, we say that if she never stops seeing blood, we don't say Daya Shaita because there's the possibility of going from one blood to the other, etc., etc. Okay. Says Rabbi Yosef, it said Yachil Levi Batla Minadah. Levi could have explained based on the following brayso. Because it says, it's in Rabbi Yosef, it says, Mu'beretz Menika, Shavel and Sholosh Oinas, Dayan Shaitan. Mu'beretz Menika, 3 periods have passed over them without seeing blood, meaning 3 months of blood free, right? Dayan Shaitan, then we say Dayan Shaitan. The time we learned concerning this, the days of her pregnancy and the days of her nursing, they joined together to make up these 3 periods. So it could be that Levi could have answered, I need her to stop from seeing Dam Tor, because it's talking about a case where she only established, say, 2 months while she was pregnant, and now she wants to establish another month while she's nursing. So therefore, she has to establish a pattern of 3 months of not seeing blood before we say that we don't say mace lace retroactively. So the reason why he has her stop is in order to get that 3rd month. It's because she only had 2 months before. Now she's going to get a 3rd month now to establish that chazaka.
It's 2 different conditions.
It doesn't matter. It's more than it understands 2 different conditions. I mean, this price doesn't. Because I'm tired. So but the thing is, that would be a nice interpretation. So we're going to leave soon. But the Usara mind.
Condition is the same physiologically because she's not ovulating. So that's why this.
Oh, so it would be the same. Oh, very good. Okay. So do Savra Mayan Echadu. It's just that the problem is that Levi holds it 2 mayonos, and this Rabbi Yossi holds it 1 mayon. So whatever he says doesn't necessarily follow vis-a-vis Levi's Shita, right? Because it could be that the whole reason he requires 3 months to establish is because it's one mayan, and you have to establish that one is dry. But according to Levi, it's different ones going on and off, so it doesn't necessarily follow. Anyway, be that made a new issue. We'll just go a couple more minutes. But when do you recognize? When is it known that a woman is pregnant? So Musar Hashem marriage 3 months. By that time, it's recognizable. There's no clear-cut evidence for this. There's allusion to this. It says, and when about 3 months passed, that's when Yocheved no longer could. What? Not Yocheved, sorry, wrong one.
This is what your Tamar.
Oh, Tamar, right, very good. Because Tamar, when they knew she was pregnant. Okay. Rabbi says, I feel muberes ruach. It's even true if she's mubaros with some sort of ruach, some sort of spirit, meaning it's not a viable child. Hareinu cholenu, because as we were pregnant, we were sick. Kamoyolanu ruach, even though we gave birth to a spirit. I'm not sure what the tahar v'chashash teodu kash. So I don't know exactly what it says, but somehow, in other words, even if it's you give birth to straw, it's still considered to be a pregnancy. Rabbi Zera Rabbi Zucha, Rabbi Chanina, Rishim, Rabbi Chia Ruba they said, I feel Ruba Shalishon, you don't need 3 full months. Even the majority of the first month, Ruba Shagam majority of the last month, I'm telling you, in a complete month in the middle, that's enough to be considered to be pregnant and to have lost your crown of maid slaves. Asi said, no, it's got to be 90 full days. Not just 90 full, it's not 90 days, but rather 3 months based on the 29-30 cycle, whatever that comes out to be. Okay, we'll stop here for this evening, and we'll pick up it from here tomorrow night.